The story of the international headquarters of the Salvation Army started here on the Millennium Way between St Paul's and the Bankside Tate, with its 5 million people walking to and fro every year. On this very site, General Booth bought the first building for the Salvation Army. Previously it had always rented its locations. This is Cafe 101. Cafe 101 because we branded it after 101, which is the Salvation Army's traditional number for all its headquarters. Cafe 101 is intended for the public as well as for the officers serving in this building, and it has proved to be very successful. You'll very often find the children from the adjacent school come in here in kind of mid-morning at coffee time to discuss what they're doing with their teachers. You find businessmen in here, you find tourists in here. It is truly a mixing bowl, and that is always General Gowan's idea. He wanted the army to come and talk to its constituency, and this is a very important part of it, and actually it makes money as well, so it works all round. Well, the concept of the building behind you is, it has two essential components. It has a public area in the bottom 3 floors and a private area in the top 3 floors. The bottom 3 floors is based on the idea of a Roman fighting camp, which sounds a bit silly, but actually the Romans, when they went out on campaign, of an evening they would dig a trench around themselves, put stakes on the top of it. They'd have a north, south, east, west road, and in the centre was the forum, which was where the general's tent and the signifer and the flags sat and waited for activity. The forum idea is translated into a 3-dimensional forum by Shepherd Robson from our spatial design. And the 3-dimensional forum contains, on the ground floor, it contains public areas, the prayer room and the major meeting room for the whole army, and in the lower ground floor it has a publicly open restaurant. Now that is part of the idea that General Gowans wanted to see. He wanted the army to make contact with its own constituency, if you like. So it's a very kind of lightly evangelical idea that you draw people in. On the first floor, suspended, if you like, almost from the ceiling of the bottom section, are the General and the Chief of the Staff's offices and their staff. There is a structure, a large structure that is shaped in like a crossed hands, and that structure was intended to take the forest of columns that you would normally get in a building of this kind and turn it and translate it into a transfer structure that took all the loads down into the lower ground. The fact that it actually holds the international headquarters up to the sky, I think, is a rather kind of nice but not designed idea in the first place. The other aspect of the building that you'll no doubt look at carefully is the fact that it is a sign. All around, both inside and outside, there are salvationist and biblical sayings, because that is what this building is about. It is actually, factually, it's a church, and it behoves everybody who goes in it to remember what it is, but it actually achieves that combination. It is both an entirely modern office building and a church at the same time, and that is really important in my view. It is the whole character of the building and the army. It is genuinely the Army's international headquarters, and it is only the Army that can give it the life that it actually enjoys. The graphic designers we selected, Hattrick, a young company, came up with a number of themes that we could use to actually express the Army's intentions, and eventually it became a series of sayings, and salvationist and just straightforward biblical sayings. But you'll notice that the text, the typeface that was chosen is Gill Sans. Now Eric Gill was a very famous graphic designer in the late 19th century, and his Gill Sans font is one of the most famous fonts in use in the world. But our graphic designers did one little thing to it, which if you know it, you see it all the time, and that is the T on a Gill Sans T has normally got the beginnings of a serif at the bottom, but our guys took off the serif and it leaves behind the cross, and if you see it every time, you can see it on each one. Every time you come across one, you'll notice that it is actually the cross. And I think it's little touches like that that make all the difference to buildings, and this one has got lots of them. Whilst the circular room was the formal heart of the Army, if you like, this behind me is the religious heart of this building. It's where everybody working in this building comes for prayers on Thursday mornings, and it reinforces what this building is for. In detail, the carpet was made in India. The graphics around the walls are the different nationalities and the different ethnic groups. In this case, it's the ethnic groups. We have the nationalities elsewhere, but it's really part of the idea of this building is to be inclusive of the world and the Army's position in it. As I said before, each floor has a forum within a forum. And on the general's floor, the forum is terminated by a chapel. And the chapel is there to remind everybody of what this building is for. It is actually, the chapel has been designed for quiet contemplation and contains the mercy seat, which is well known to Salvationists for thoughts and prayers. The actual chapel itself was made by Carpenter Loewings, who are a New York firm who are expert in the use of glass, and the glass panels around the chapel are testament to that. Most interestingly, at the end of the chapel is a glass wall with inclined blades, and the inclined blades reflect the sky above it. Its intention is to reflect the sky above it and to provide a background for quiet contemplation.